Let's start off with the function f of x is equal to x cubed minus 4x squared plus 4x minus 16. The given 0 is 2I. To solve this problem, we're going to have to use synthetic division. When synthetically dividing, we drop down the coefficients 1, -4, 4, and -16, and we synthetically divide by the 0, which is 2I. The first step in synthetic division is to drop down the first coefficient, which is the 1. After that, we multiply the 1 by the 2I, and we get 2I. Then the next step would be to do -4 plus 2I, which is the same as 2I minus 4. The next step would be to multiply 2I times 2I minus 4. When you do that, the i's square root each other and is the same thing as -1. So the answer that you'd get of 2I times 2I minus 4 is -4 minus 8I. When you add that to positive 4, you get -8I. Then you multiply -8I times 2I to get positive 16. When you do -16 plus 16, you get 0. After synthetically dividing by 2I, our answer was 1, 2I minus 4, and -8I. When we have the root of 2I, we know that the other root is -2I. Then we would divide this answer by -2I to find another root. We know that there will only be one other root because the original function had a degree of x cubed. Cubed meaning there will only be 3 roots. When synthetically dividing, we do this same process all over again except with -2I. So we drop the 1, we multiply 1 times -2I, and get -2I, add these together, get -4, multiply these two together, and get positive 8I, and then we get 0. That means that this is really x minus 4 is equal to 0. From here, we can solve for the final root, which would be x is equal to 4. Our 3 roots are 4, -2I, and 2I. Okay, so now we're going to try one that's just a little bit harder. This is the f of x function, and this is our given 0, 1 plus I. So we're going to have to do synthetic division. So the first step, which we know from the easier one, is to write all the coefficients. 1, 6, -14, and 16. Then we're going to divide this by 1 plus I, which is our given root. We drop the 1, and we multiply that times the root, and we get 1 plus I, and we add it to 6. Once we add it to 6, we should have 7 plus I. Then you do 7 plus I times 1 plus I, which would be like this. Times we distribute the 1. 7 plus I. Distribute the I again. and we get plus 7i. Then I times I is the same as negative 1. So over here we should have 6 plus 8i. Negative 14 plus 6 plus 8i is simply negative 8 plus 8i. The next step here would be to multiply the 1 plus I times the negative 8 plus I. 1, we get negative 8 plus 8i minus 8i minus 8. So then, once we simplify that, we get negative 16, which 16 plus negative 16 is 0. Since 1 plus I is one of the roots, you know that its conjugate root is 1 minus I. So the next step in the problem is to synthetically divide our first answer by 1 minus I. So we drop the 1. 1 minus I times 1 is 1 minus I. The I would add 7 plus I and 1 minus I and get 8. Then we multiply 8 times 1 minus I and get 8 minus 8i, which would then be 0. So the final answer is x plus 8 is equal to 0. From here we solve for our final root by subtracting 8, so we know that the final root is negative 8. So for the function f of x is equal to x cubed plus 6x squared minus 14x plus 16. The three roots are negative 8, 1 plus I, and 1 minus I.